All right, looks like we're having some technology issues, so we'll see if we can't get this up and running again. Gonna give it a few seconds to see if it kicks us off again. All right, I think we're up and running. So, as I was saying, sorry for the technology concerns. We're going to keep our fingers crossed that we are up and running now. Please do comment, though. Let me know who's here, your name, where you're from. We're going to try to keep this as conversational as possible today as we go over some of the exciting research that supports the work that we do. And one of my favorite things that we get to experience as people who are passionate about therapy animal work is that we are in this space together where we all, this makes us all very excited. I go to animal assisted therapy conferences all the time. I get to work with volunteers. Meeting people who can share the heart for this work that we have is one of my favorite things. I leave motivated to go out, visit with my animals more, continue researching this intervention. So do let us know where you're from, maybe the name of your therapy animal if you have one, or even if you just have a pet who is not a therapy animal, comment, and we will keep the conversation rolling anytime throughout the conversation. If you have questions about what we're talking about, comment those as well. I see that we have Jessica has a therapy cat. Yay, I'm so excited. I will try to touch on some research around cats, but you'll see that most of the research out there does focus on canines. So as we wrap up today and talk about research that we hope to sponsor in the future, we would love to see more studies on other species such as cats. So do keep commenting. Let me know your name, where you're from. I'll check in with those in a moment. The whole goal today is that we're going to go over a really high-level overview of the research that supports the awesome work that we do. We're going to talk about major findings in the medical arena and educational context. We're going to talk about therapy animal work and mental health. We'll talk about some specific populations, such as children and seniors. As I'm sure you can imagine, there is enough great information out there that we could do an hour-long conversation presentation on each one of these topics. But my goal today is that you will be able to log off, have some information that you can put in your back pocket and share with people when you're out sharing information about the amazing power of the human-animal bond. Looks like we still have some people joining us. Thank you for joining us. You'll hear me many times today invite you to comment with your name. I see we have Poppy and Rumor, two therapy dogs represented by Mary from Huntsville, Alabama. Thank you for your work. Thank you for volunteering with your dogs. Please keep saying hi. Let me know that you're here. While we wait on more people to join us, I'll say a little bit more about myself. My name is Dr. Taylor Chastain, and the only reason I can say that doctor part is because I became obsessed at a very young age with becoming as credentialed as humanly possible, so that people would take me seriously in my crazy, extravagant love for animals. I love all animals. I've been a rescuer and a dog trainer for many, many years. I first went to school in my undergrad program to study psychology and went on immediately for my master's in mental health counseling. And that's when I started to bring my own therapy animals into my work. You'll see behind me a photo of Rex. He was one of the first therapy animals who I ever worked with as a mental health counselor. He is an intensely intelligent border collie who is now very much enjoying the retired life. He is a couch potato these days, but he had a wonderful career as a therapy animal. Like I said, if you have a therapy animal and like to share their information, put that in the comments box and I'll check in just a moment. Their name, maybe their breed, how long you've been working together. But in my career, as I worked with Rex, I realized very early on that we were in a field that really needed a lot of support. People didn't always take the work that I did with my animals as seriously as I hoped that they would have. So I decided to go back to school and get my doctorate in research psychology, where I focused my research at the time on the power of the human-animal bond, specifically in the context of domestic violence recovery. I've been involved with Pet Partners for a long time as well. I was a volunteer handler with many of my animals for several years. I worked to get a community partner up and running, which is a group of volunteers. I'm a community partner group up and running in the Atlanta area, and I'm also a therapy animal evaluator. So if we have some therapy animal volunteers, some volunteer leaders joining us today, thank you so much for the work that you do. I know how much goes into it, and I really appreciate that. I've been working in this role with Pet Partners officially for about a year and a half. My title is the National Director of AAI Advancement, which stands for Animal Assisted Interventions Advancement. I work remotely from home, but I have 7 colleagues who work with me. They are my 7 dogs. Yes, I own them all. They are my family, and they motivate me every day, just as I'm sure your animals motivate you. So I'm checking in again on some comments. We have Vivian from Puerto Rico. That's exciting. Thank you so much for joining us. Melinda, I'm so excited that you're interested to hear more about this topic. Another therapy cat in the house. This is so exciting. We'll try to talk about some research with other animals. Rosie, thank you guys so much for joining us and for commenting. Lori and Michelle, thank you. All right, so we're going to hop right in and talk about why it's important that we talk about research and therapy animal work. I remember when I was first visiting with my animals, and I've hinted on this a little bit, but one of the things that really started to bother me, even just in volunteer visits when I was walking through a hospital hallway with one of my dogs in a vest, people would come up and sometimes just kind of tap the dog's head and say, "Oh, that's cute," and no harm intended, it is cute, but there was this assumption that this is just a very simple feel-good thing that we do. And what we do know about therapy animal work, for anyone who's been involved in it, is that it's far more than just a feel-good, simple thing, that this is life-changing work, and that it's work that's really supported by actual science. So as we go through this today, I want you to be able to take some information away from this, and anytime you're out there talking about the power of the human-animal bond, you'll help us be able to move the field forward by letting it be seen as a science that is supported empirically. Let's see, any more comments checking in? Lisa, Tina, so many people who have some therapy animal experience, which is very exciting. I will be asking you throughout the presentation to comment if you have any experiences in particular settings, such as hospitals, anything like that. Let us know. We see we have some people who are coming up and preparing to test with your animals. Good luck, Marion. I hope this gets you excited about the work that you'll be doing. Connie, 20 years of experience with Pet Partners. Wow, thank you so much for your commitment to this field. So we'll dive right into some research now. Again, today we're going over very high level major findings, but the citations for where all of this data comes from is going to be provided in the comments link. So you'll be able to click on that link, load the full citation page, and really dive into the data as much as you'd like. So that will be available to you. First, though, we're going to talk about one of the settings in which therapy animal visits is most common, which is in medical settings. A lot of our teams visit in hospitals, doctor's office, recovery centers, and any other place that people are being treated for physical health issues. And there have been some really, really great findings in the research when it comes to investigating the impact of therapy animals in these medical settings. The findings from various different studies have shown that therapy animals do things such as reduce fear for patients before they undergo treatment, decrease an overall sense of anxiety in patients, improve mood, and even lower perceptions of pain, which if anyone's been hospitalized or even just going to a doctor's office or to a dentist office, if there can be any intervention that could help do those things, keep pain levels down, anxiety and fear, that's an intervention that I, for one, would be interested in. In some studies, patients who are involved in animal-assisted interventions have also even shown quicker recovery rates as compared to patients who don't interact with therapy animals. There's one study in particular that looked at something called ambulation, which is just a fancy word for walking. Heart patients, oftentimes, one of the things that really indicates that they're going to take a good route in recovery is how quickly they're going to get up and start walking again. There's a study that looked at the impact of bringing therapy animals into that setting, and there's a significant difference in how quickly people are up and walking again relating to recovery. Researchers have used a wide variety of variables to measure the impact of therapy animals on physical wellness and recovery. There's been everything from giving a patient a survey that they take and report their own perceptions of their recovery, and even measures that are more biological in nature. Salivary cortisol level, which is basically testing your stress levels in your spit, heart rate, blood pressure, and many other biological components have been investigated when looking at the impact of therapy animal work in medical settings. I see that we have more people joining us, laughing because my father joined. Brex, his grandfather, is here. Susan, working on a PhD in psychology. Thank you guys for being here. I'll be monitoring for some questions. If I miss any as we go along, I will try to reach back out to you after this is all over. We'll keep talking about research in the medical setting for a little bit longer. Something that's really interesting to me, and I know many of you who have visited before will have personal testimony that highlights this, but animal-assisted interventions not only impactful for the patient who's receiving medical treatment, but anyone who is around the intervention might also benefit. You've probably been to a hospital or nursing home if you're a therapy animal handler, and sometimes it seems like the staff is the most excited to see you even more than the patients who you're visiting with. Studies have also taken place in 2012 and 2013, and it looked at the emotional distress of caretakers who accompany a loved one to an appointment. If you've been a caretaker, you know how tolling that can be. And this study looked at their emotional distress and found that if they interacted with the therapy animals, then they felt better as well. It's something that we're asked all the time when we look at investigating therapy animal work is what is it that's really making the difference? We know that our animals don't just put their vest on themselves and get in the car and visit on their own. They're attached to a handler who is highly trained to interact with people in all different walks of life. And while we know for sure that that human component makes a huge difference in therapy animal work, there have been some studies that have specifically isolated to different variables to make sure that it's not just the human, that the therapy animal is bringing a unique and impactful significance. So there was a study in 2008 that had chemo patients, and they were broken into 3 different groups. The first group visited after they received treatment with just a human volunteer. So someone who would come in, was going to talk with them, have conversation, no animals involved. And the second group, there was a typical therapy animal team, a human plus an animal. And then the third group, the person did not visit with anyone, so they had something to compare it to. This study was really interesting because the patients who interacted with the therapy animals, as compared to the other 2 groups, felt that they were doing better and becoming more healthy. And this was regardless of their actual health status. So it wasn't that they just happened to be actually becoming healthier compared to the other 2 groups, but something about visiting with the therapy animals made them more optimistic about their health, which is something that can be really powerful if you're someone who is going through something as serious as chemo. I'm going to take a moment here, check out some comments, say hi to some people. Claire from New Zealand. I'm excited that you're getting interested in animal-assisted interventions. I see that we have a testimony from Michelle, someone who received a therapy animal visit after a major car crash in 2003. It is so meaningful to hear from people who've received this intervention and have the real life stories. And Lisa, thanks for attesting. Staff is just important as the patients and the residential facilities. Thank you guys for your comments. Please keep them up as we go through this presentation. So next, we'll shift focus just a little bit. Beyond assisting people who are ill, therapy animals can also work to help people maintain a sense of physical wellness before we get to the point where medical intervention is required. There was a 2010 study that investigated a walking program which matched adults with therapy animals. Participants in this study showed increases in physical activity over the course of the experiment, and they stated their motivation for participating in the walking program was that the dogs need us to walk them. I'm sure that a lot of you are aware of our Walk With Me program. That's an initiative that we have at Pet Partners that allows the public the opportunity to match up with our therapy animal teams and walk for the sake of improved wellness. If any of you have participated in the Walk With Me program, let me know. Comment, even if you just say that if you have a story about it or if you've just ever done it. I would love to know that these are initiatives that you participate in day and day out. Next, though, we'll shift focus and talk a little bit about therapy animal work and mental wellness. I'm sure if you heard my introduction, you know that mental health is something that's very important to me as a background and a mental health counselor. And anecdotally, any of us who care enough about animals to log on to a Facebook Live event on an afternoon or evening can probably share a story about how an animal has helped us to feel better. We might not always know how to explain that, but if you've ever walked in the door and been greeted by a pet, there's just something about it that warms your heart. If you have a story and would like to share that in the comments, please do. Fortunately for us, there is a very large body of research out there that shows how animals in general inspire mental and physical wellness, but how therapy animals particularly impact mental wellness. Studies have shown that the intervention helps to decrease general anxiety and stress, improve trauma symptoms when matched with a practitioner who specialized in helping to oversee recovery from psychological trauma. Therapy animal work has been shown to increase energy and increase perceptions of social support. For example, in the research world, some of you might be researchers as well. I've seen some comments, but you'll know what I'm talking about. But there's this term called literature review. A literature review is basically when a researcher finds a topic that they're interested in, looks at every single article that's ever been written on it, reads all of that information, and then synthesizes it or summarizes it into a document to catch us all up to date on the state of the field. I say all of that because one of our very own Human-Animal Bond Advisory Board members, Dr. Maggie O'Hare, conducted a literature review on animal-assisted interventions in autism. And through that review, she found that the most common outcome of studies that investigate therapy animal work for people with autism was that the people who engaged in the intervention had higher levels of social interaction. And we know that social interaction is a variable that we should talk about when we're talking about mental wellness and mental health. Findings like these speak to the impact of therapy animals on variables related to mental health. They stand true for people of all walks of life, from patients who are actively being treated for mental health concerns and for populations who are enjoying relative wellness, such as in corporate settings and in academic settings. Before we move on, again, I'm going to make sure I keep seeing who we have with us, seeing if we have any questions. I see we have Charlotte. Thank you for joining us from Texas. Any other comments you have as we go through or any questions, feel free to post them. Before we wrap up talking about mental health, though, I do want to touch on an initiative that we have at Pet Partners that I am so excited about. I hope some of you have heard of our Animal-Assisted Crisis Response Program. If you've participated in that and gone through the training that we have, let me know what you thought about that coursework. That coursework was developed with some of the industry's top experts, and it all rests on the idea that if we're going to go out and interact with people in active times of crisis, then we as the handlers should know what we can say, what we shouldn't say, and how to be the most effective in that space when people are just really vulnerable. As someone who has a background in mental health counseling and went to school for that for many years, I was pleasantly surprised to see that when I took the course that we offer for the AACR program, that I learned new things, and I would be really interested to hear if any of you also had that experience. But needless to say, the research does support this work in terms of responding to crisis situations with therapy animals. We're going to talk a little bit about a study by Dr. Cynthia Chandler. She is a pioneer in the field. She wrote the book on animal-assisted therapy and counseling, and she highlights all of the other research that suggests that therapy animal work can mitigate stress and crisis response. She actually took her therapy animals with her to respond to Hurricane Katrina victims back in 2005. And she wrote a report and said that by visiting with her animals, the people said that they were better able to release their emotions, to receive healthy nurturance, and just to feel like they had, a lot of times people in that particular situation left their pets at home because they had to, and to be able to interact with the therapy animals there was really meaningful to them. So research does suggest that it is a powerful intervention. If you haven't already, if you have a therapy animal, please check out the AACR program that we have and consider joining us in that. Not checking out here to see if anyone happened to have commented with experiences with the AACR program. I see that we have a Read to Me dog team. That's awesome. We're going to be talking about that here in just a little bit. So even with the research that we do have on mental health and therapy animal work, I think it's fair to say that there's still so much for us to study and understand about what these animals are picking up on. I've worked in sessions with Rex, the therapy dog here, back when I was a mental health counselor, and the things that he would do that took me a while to really understand were really amazing. If I had a client, for example, who was dealing with a lot of different feelings, had a lot going on, but maybe might not have been telling me about that, I started to notice over time that Rex would do this ridiculous thing where he would fall over into an almost dead dog command that I had never previously taught him. It was not a behavior that I trained. So there was something in the room that he's picking up on that I think as a field we are just now starting to understand. So I'm really excited for us to continue investigating what impact these animals have on mental health and what read they are able to have in understanding our mental health. We have an AACR cat, Tina. Basil is an AACR. Thank you so much for going through that training. I hope that you found that training to be really helpful. And while we hope that there's never any crisis or tragedy in your community, we know that your neighbors would be very lucky to have Basil visit them if something were to happen. All right. So we'll keep on talking a little bit more. We had someone talk about their animal being a read with me animal. So let's shift focus and talk about therapy animal work in educational context. One of the coolest things about animal assisted interventions is that it can be applied to people from all walks of life. Young people, old people, people who are sick, and people who are well. And one of the most common environments that allows young people to visit with therapy animals is in those educational environments. We had some talk about our Read With Me program. If anyone else has been a part of our Read With Me program, please comment and let us know. But that is basically a program that we have that allows children to practice their reading skills by reading to therapy animals who are non-judgmental and just by nature very encouraging. Research backs this up. There was a study in 2013 that looked at the impact of therapy animals on youth literacy rates. And students who worked with dogs in this study demonstrated really impressive improvements with net gains of more than a year's growth in variables such as reading rate, accuracy, fluency, and comprehension. I have also had the privilege of visiting in a reading setting with one of my therapy dogs, Charlie. She unfortunately passed away earlier this year, but Charlie loved nothing more than going with me to the Department of Juvenile Justice, and she would be read to for as many hours as she could visit, 2-hour visit limit, but she would sit there and just listen. The students would sometimes get a little in their head and start stuttering, and she would just lay her head in their lap. And over the 6 to 8 weeks that I was a part of that program with them, the gains that they showed were phenomenal. So knowing that there is research to say that that this intervention helps reading rate, accuracy, fluency, and comprehension is really helpful to add some data to our anecdotal experiences. I see more people commenting. Connie, pause to read and reading with Rover. I see Tina has some comments about the AACR teams dealing with people who have been so heavily impacted by the event. Yes, thank you. I'm excited to keep on developing these trainings and providing more information so that we're ready to go out and respond to our community as needed. Continuing conversation about the therapy animals in educational settings, it's not just reading that therapy animals can help us with. Studies have also shown that the presence of therapy animals has helped to enhance primary skills, such as object recognition and young learners and categorization, while also providing a source of learning motivation and focus. If anyone's been in an elementary school classroom, motivation and focus are something that we would all aim to come by, and therapy animals have demonstrated in various different studies an ability to help promote those things. Another one of our Human-Animal Bond Advisory Board members, Dr. Nancy G., has done some phenomenal work in capturing the impact of therapy animals in learning environments. So if this is a topic that you're interested in, I hope you will find in that comment section the link to the full list of citations from this presentation and find her work, Dr. Nancy G. Read more about how therapy animals can impact the learning process. Finally, before we move off of the topic of learning environments, we know that therapy animals can help mitigate stress in learning environments, especially surrounding events like final exams. I imagine now that I'm reading all of these comments and seeing how many of you have active and working therapy animals, you've probably been involved in de-stress events. Here in Atlanta, the Atlanta area, that's one of the things that we get requested the most for, is to come visit with students in college before they take their exams. Studies have supported that, have found that animals help to decrease that stress level, and a student who is less stressed out is hopefully going to do better on their exam. All right, so let's see if we can figure out our tech issues here. All right, can y'all see me now? It says I'm frozen, but I'm seeing comments that you can see me. All right, well, I'll wait for one more person to let me know if you can see and hear me. See, it would be better if we were sitting around a coffee table and having this conversation. All right, well, we're going to keep rolling. So, last population we're going to talk about is therapy animal work with seniors. One of my therapy dogs, Ivy, is a miniature poodle, and she loves nothing more than visiting in the assisted living facility in my hometown. She's especially fond of visiting in the memory care unit, and it's been really meaningful to see in a lot of different situations with many different people, dementia and Alzheimer's. They cannot always remember who I am. They sometimes, unfortunately, can't even remember their family members. But when Ivy comes, there's been many people who can remember her. There's been a lot of studies on the application of AAI for older adults with dementia, and it's been found that the interaction with therapy animals leads to decreases in irritability and increases in socialization and engagement for people with dementia. Findings aren't just promising for older adults with memory impairment, though. In 2019, a group of researchers monitored depression, anxiety, and illness perception in institutionalized elderly people. And in this study, it was found that the intervention reduced symptoms of depression while also facilitating social interaction and encouraging positive emotional responses, which is something that I know we all hope to have as we grow older. Interestingly, participants in this study also demonstrated treatment-related empowerment, indicating that the animal-assisted intervention might be beneficial in inspiring positive perceptions around illness. So this relates back to that study we talked about with chemotherapy and therapy animals, that even regardless of your physical state or your state of illness, that interacting with therapy animals might make us feel more optimistic. Looking again that you can see and hear me fine. That's great. I love it when I find out that you could probably see and hear me the whole time I was texting someone at work to see if you could. Thank you for your patience as we troubleshoot technology. If any one of you has visited in senior living facilities, has visited and for people with dementia, please do comment and let me know so that we can see what other experiences that you've had that highlight some of this research. So watching the clock here, I know we wanted to wrap up soon. I welcome any questions that you have and hope to be able to address them. If you have questions about specific research studies, we are welcome to contact us through email. I would love to be able to answer those. But before we log off today, I do want to communicate to all of you just how excited we are at Pet Partners about supporting empirical research on animal-assisted intervention. In 2019, you may have heard, but we started a really exciting new partnership with the Human Animal Bond Research Institute to fund $100,000 in research on therapy animal work. We renewed that commitment here in 2020, and we'll be doing the same thing, funding an additional $100,000 in work on therapy animals. And you can find, if you're a researcher, that proposal is open until February 13th. So you have just under a month. Go to habri.org to find out information about that grant opportunity. This is where conversation about representing diverse species, therapy cats, therapy horses, pigs, the whole species gamut that we have. We would love to see some studies that incorporate those animals into the data. If you're a handler, you've likely seen some things come through from me, some invitations about the ability to participate in research studies. Researchers will commonly reach out to us at Pet Partners for help recruiting to find therapy animal handlers to be in their studies. And when that happens, we'll take a look at the study, make sure it's a good fit for our teams, and then I'll send an invitation out to all of you so that you have the opportunity with your animal to be represented in the data. If you see an opportunity like that in the future, please consider being involved. And doing so, the great work that you're already doing with your animal could be represented in a huge way and really help push the entire field forward. Finally, if you're a student who's looking to maybe research animal-assisted interventions, research therapy animal work, I highly suggest combing through all of the existing data. Some of the emails I get most often are, I'm just getting started in this field, I want to research this, but I don't know where to start. Download that PDF document that you'll have a link to through our website that lists all of the references for this presentation. And at the end of almost every single one of those studies, you're going to find suggestions for future research. I always encourage people to build upon the work that we've already done in this field, that other researchers have already done in this field, and create studies that are standing on the grounds of some really great studies that have already taken place. Let's see, I'm going to check and see if we have any last questions here. You said any programs designed to help veterans in the works. Yes, we do have a new agreement with VA that you can read about on our website, and we're excited to be able to go in and help people in that setting. Also, if you are interested in the AACR, Animal Assisted Crisis Response Training, there are some tenets of that training that will be really helpful for anyone who's going to interact with clients or with people on visits who've experienced trauma. See if there's any other questions. Yes, I see. We have some other people talking about our veterans program. Some people talking about, we have Vicki talking about Hospice House. It is a different experience to visit in that setting. I know that most of you have probably watched our other Facebook Live videos, but anytime you're visiting in a setting that's new to your animal, we want to make sure that we're watching our animal signs of stress. I have some of my therapy animals who will go visit in a hospice setting and act like they really love it, and some of them have gone 1 or 2 times and just it has been too much for them. So stay tuned to other Facebook Live sessions that we have. Make sure to review ones that will be available to you on our Facebook page to find out more about standards of practice and animal welfare in animal-assisted therapy. I'll see if there's any more questions coming in. I don't see any right now, but again, we've had some technical difficulties today. Thank you for your patience on that. If you have questions that haven't been answered, you're always free to reach out to us directly, and I will be happy to answer those. So we'll go ahead and get ready to say goodbye for today. I hope that this has been helpful to you and that you have had some information given to you that you can do what we said from the beginning, put in your back pocket and share on visits. We also hope that you'll continue to monitor our Facebook Live sessions. You can stay in the loop on those by subscribing to the Facebook Live notifications. And it's a button in the corner of your comment section. I appreciate your time today, talking this through with me, sharing your feedback. We all know the amazing impact that therapy animals have, or that animals in general have, and you can rest assured that at Pet Partners, we will not stop working until everyone in the world who will listen to us will hear about the incredible power of the human-animal bond. And finally, before I let you guys go, I want to thank you on a personal level for all of our volunteer leaders, for all of our therapy animal handlers, for anyone who's passionate about the human-animal bond. Please know that your work really is changing the world. We at Pet Partners realize that we could not do this work without you. So from the bottom of my heart, you and your pets are greatly appreciated. So thank you guys for your time. And I look forward to connecting with more of you in the future as we continue to support the field of empirical investigation and therapy animal work.